Hello, and welcome back. Now, I've got a question for you. Have you ever heard of Round the Bridges or the New Zealand Motorhome and Caravan Leisure Show, or even Balloons over Waikato? Now, if you've heard of any of these events, then you probably would have crossed paths with this person that we're interviewing today. But I'm going to throw one more piece into the mix. Because whilst she's been doing all of those events, she also decided back in 2018 to start a rural holiday home platform, which is growing in strength. I am excited to invite today Michele Connell from Classic Events and Off the Beaten Track. Michele, hello, how are you?
Hi, Tracy, I'm good. Thank you.
Now, thank you so much for joining us today. You're in the Waikato, and it's been a different lifestyle in the Waikato right now with the current situation with lockdown. And I think today's your first day of freedom.
Yes, apparently, I actually am in. I'm taking advantage of being down in New Plymouth. Because I've got.
You didn't have to give that away, but yes.
No, I came down legally, I'll have you say, and before the start of my oldest son's opening his business. So I'm giving him a hand, but we've got no family or friends coming down to give us a hand, so it's just him and me. So, but yeah, I think they've got their first day of freedom. They've got retail open, and yesterday, and so there'll be some relieved people, I'm sure. My family.
Oh, I bet. And it's been it's been an interesting 18 months. Before we go into your business story and the fact that you've got these two businesses, I would love to hear your backstory, where you've come from, because I've done the research already, and I was blown away with what you've done up until now. So could you please share with us a little bit about how you got to where you are now and where it all started?
Well, I suppose I've always, since my mid-20s really, I have been in business for myself and opened my first business with a friend. Back then we opened a retail store called Country Bumpkins, which was a homewares gift store, which we loved. And I guess I was always opening businesses in my life that were probably appealing to me for the stage that I was at in my life. So we enjoyed that, and we were fortunate that we had won a business award with that, and we got featured in a magazine, and so that sort of gave us the impetus to sell it. And we were both at the stage where we were sort of newly married and ready to move on to the next stage, and then I obviously married a dairy farmer, so we were living on the farm and living in a little cottage. And we so after I sold that first business, we went about actually moving a big old home from Dannyburg and up onto the farm. So for probably 3 or 4 months, renovated that. Had 3 sons, and then the second business idea came, and that was really born out of having 3 boys who wouldn't sit still and to get their hair cut. And so I opened Cool Haircut, it was called. It was a kids' hair salon.
Oh, wow.
And it had TVs all along the front. The TVs either had a video where little ones could watch their favourite video, or they had PlayStations where those kids that were a bit older could sit there and play PlayStation. And there was a cafe that was adjoining it.
That must have been one of the coolest places in town.
Well, it was our youngest was about 2.5 when I opened that. So sometimes I was thinking, what have I done? But I guess it was really good. They really enjoyed it. The kids really enjoyed being part of it, and it was just we tried to do things a bit differently and involve ourselves with schools and align ourselves with those sorts of things, and so. It got to the stage, I wasn't a hairdresser, and the hairdressing industry was quite challenging when you're not a hairdresser. You just can't step in and take over, or they wouldn't want me taking over. So we were fortunate that we won a business award for that as well, and it was at that awards dinner that I ended up meeting the chief judge, who was telling me that she owned a recruitment company. So didn't sort of think anything of it, but it was probably 4 or 5 months later I'd said to my husband that, look, I think I might exit the hairdressing industry and just get something that was just 15 hours a week, still have plenty of time for the kids. And so I thought, I remembered her name, and I rang her and thought I'd just see if she had take my name and see if there was something that might crop up for 15 hours a week. And she actually said to me, "What are you doing now? Come on in." And she was the chairwoman for Balloons Over Waikato, which is a massive event here in Waikato. And so I went in, and she said, "Why don't you come and work for us?" So my role was to grow the event. So, you know, it was like there was a number of initiatives looked at creating, and it was 15 hours a week, and it was great. But I found myself, that was in the October, and the event's in the March, and come the end of the year, the then event manager left, and I was just left in the hot seat, and it was a baptism of fires. I had never run an event. I didn't know anything about hot air balloons. And I remember at one stage someone saying to me, "It's about this time that we provide a PowerPoint presentation to our sponsors," and I didn't even know what PowerPoint was. So wow! So it was quite a baptism of fire, but it was. So we managed to get through, and I think the thing that held it all together was that it was a beautiful week of weather. No one sort of realised the chaos that was going in behind the scenes. So I thought to myself, it would be fantastic actually after that all wrapped up and the exhaustion and that you got through it. I thought it would be quite nice to have the luxury of having a whole year to pull that event together. And I'm still doing it. I'm still running balloons. So that was 2005.
So not only one event, you've got multiple events now.
Yeah, so in 2010, my husband and I were just looking at perhaps what we might move on to or do something else, and we decided we were just looking at options, and it came to our notice that there was an event company that was for sale. So we actually bought that event company. That was Classic Events, and it at that stage was running the New Zealand Motorhome Caravan and Leisure Show north in Hamilton, the North Island one, and the South Island one in Christchurch. And we've sort of come and gone with a few other events in our portfolio over that time, and we've settled really on our 4 probably favourite and best events that we run now, which is great. Yeah.
And then it's like that movie, isn't it? And then. No, and then. So tell us what else you then decided to add to the portfolio.
Well, and it was a decision that wasn't a conscious decision. It was just an idea that came to us when we were, Roy and I were actually watching an episode of Country Calendar, and on it was this farm. It was a Canterbury farm, and it had rivers and it had bush, and it was beautiful. And the only people who were getting to enjoy that farm were the family of 4 that lived on it. And at that stage, the milk price wasn't that great, and we were thinking, you know, there must be a lot of other farmers out there who've got beautiful pieces of paradise that they take for granted or they just live with, and that they could actually monetize. Because we knew that every rural industry, be it sheep and beef and deer and dairy, they all have peaks and troughs of tough times and good times. And so we thought, look, this might be a real opportunity to actually appeal to, and also holiday makers could be staying at places in New Zealand they never knew existed.
Yeah.
So that's where Off the Beaten Track, that's the germ of an idea was formed, and we sort of went from there.
Wow. And I love the fact that you've got another business that is kind of aligned, but not necessarily all of your eggs in one basket. So holiday homes, events. Now, the most inspiring thing about you is that you just keep changing and evolving, and you keep chasing and you keep coming up with ideas. So a real entrepreneurial brain, Michele, and I love that. That's what I love about you, because you don't see an obstacle, you just keep going. But over all this time, what has really been the driver for you to be that business owner and push yourself forward?
My kids would say that it's because I don't like being told what to do. And, but I do like, I guess I've always wanted to be in charge of my own time and my own day. And also, having the three boys, both Roy and I, and we were fortunate that, Roy was a dairy farmer, but being part of their lives while working was a big driver for me. And I still wanted to, go on camp with them, still wanted to, manage a sports team, and still wanted to be very much present with their lives. And it's still happening as I set them down here in New Plymouth with Taylor, setting up his gym with him. So that was probably a big driver of having that flexibility. And I still actually make sure that for my staff at work that we have a very flexible working environment. Majority of them are mums, and I think that's really important. So that's probably being in charge of my own destiny and being able to be a big part of my family's life still.
Yeah, and it's an amazing driver for people when it's family. Family is a massive driver, and to think what you've achieved while still bringing up a family at the same time and being mum. You probably, if anyone that's watching, is she a super mum or not? Let's just put a few comments in there to see if she's your super mum. I imagine the kids are watching right now.
Yeah, no questions from them, please.
Yeah. So you've got the events company, you've got a holiday home company, you're at full gas. Let's just take a moment and, there's a super mum there. Just have to pop that out there. Thanks, Karen. She is a super mum. Anyone that can do all of that and have three boys, by the way, is definitely a super mum. So let's go back to March 2020. I feel that it's always important to share these stories because it just shows the strength of exactly who you are, Michele, as an entrepreneur and as a leader. Because we're now here today, still able to say that you're moving forward and the business is moving forward. But March 2020, COVID hits. Talk me through those first couple of months for you.
Oh yeah, having a tourism business and an event business with mass gatherings was not good with COVID. And so when COVID hit last year, we were on the cusp of lockdown. That was the lockdown that was to come with Balloons over Waikato. So for some context, Balloons is over a 5-day event for those who don't know it. About approximately 5,000 people come down every morning. And then the Zuru Night Glow, which is our big night, there's around 80,000 people come to that night. So as we were drawing close, things were happening, cases were happening, and we knew when the government at that stage cancelled the Christchurch Memorial event that was really a catalyst for us in terms of what we were doing moving forward with Balloons. So we had to change on the hop that whole event. Yeah. Things were happening through that week. From where, how many we had to cancel all public facing. We decided we had all our international pilots here. We had all the balloons here. Everyone was there. And so we thought, okay, let's not run the public facing events, but we'll still do the flying component. So we structured it so that the balloons lifted off according to the breeze that would enable them to fly across the city and as many people as possible see the balloons. So, and through that week things were changing, and we've had about 150 crew, and then suddenly it became you could only have 100 people in one place at one time, and so it was and then no one, all of these pilots trying to get back to the States or Australia or having flights changing on them, and it was really interesting. And I guess then we wrapped up Balloons and we went straight into lockdown. So we had a couple of days to sort of tidy up in the office, and then we were straight into lockdown. So that gave us the ability then to, I suppose, have a good look at how things might appear moving forward. Yeah. We actually activated everyone in my team onto Off the Beaten Track. And
Yes.
And so we managed to reach out to a lot of potential landowners, and it was probably a good thing for that. We were just dipping our toe in the Aussie market for Off the Beaten Track, so we had to turn that tap on.
Yeah.
And go back and review then a domestic offering and how that was going to look like. And if you remember back in those early days in lockdown, there was so much information coming through, and it was really a challenging time. But a lot of it was I think, there was a lot of forums and a lot of connections occurring, and I think that was a good thing. It kept you engaged with your industry and what was happening, and we were all in this unknown territory and just muddling our way through it.
Yeah, totally. And I can just talking and hearing another person talking about it, it takes you back to that time. There was, you're exactly right, there was so much information, and the hardest thing that we found, we went into crisis mode. So we personally lost 90% of our business, and we turned to supporting the RTO here. And it was about taking that information and putting it into a single piece and pulling out what was important, because there was a lot of noise, so much noise. But we then created support groups, and it was all virtual. And I think for many, the support groups made the biggest difference, because you could sit in a small group and share your knowledge and ask questions. How have you dealt with that cancellation? How have you dealt with, that client? Or are you chasing money here? And unfortunately, there was a lot of people chasing for money after lockdown. But interesting. So with Off the Beaten Track, and I don't think people really understand the extent of when you say we put all our energy into Off the Beaten Track, how you grew that portfolio of holiday homes exponentially.
We did. We got another 18 listings from that period. And I haven't got a very big team. There's only 7 of us, including me. And, we were still had to go through the process at that time too of cancelling 2 events, and all of the refunds and all of the whole business that goes with that. And then we also, it just, but we could focus a little bit more on Off the Beaten Track, and how, it gave us some independent assessments of it too. And I guess that was important. Yeah. So that was really good for us from a landowner acquisition perspective. But of course people couldn't travel, so there weren't the bookings. Everyone was just sitting not knowing what was happening. So again, it was a tough time. But we never actually thought we never actually thought when we got to the end of 2020 that I'd be sitting here and just last week having to cancel another event and a postponement. Another event. We felt we were over it, and so it just keeps rearing. It's the gift that keeps giving, we say.
It does, and I think for a lot of people, they think that events just can turn off and be refunded and turn back on, but it's actually it's essentially a big beast, and it moves slow, and when the momentum gets, it's really hard to turn it off when you're in full momentum. Yeah.
It is. And I guess what people need to know too is the flow on effect of all those people that rely on the event for their livelihoods too. So you've got all those contractors and suppliers that essentially just their work, especially when last year and everyone was cancelling, they just had everything, the tap turn off on everything immediately, and lost tens and tens of thousands of dollars overnight. And then no one was certain how events would look like when they came back. I mean, when we did come back, it was brilliant. People were keen to get out, and they were, they were really well patronised. But and this time just feels a little different, we feel. It's just been harder because I think we felt we did it and we got through, and we're now doing it all again.
Yeah, look, I think you're right on all accounts. And when we talk to people here and when we talk to people outside and one-on-one, this lockdown has definitely had a different vibe to it than any other year. And I think it's harder, and we know what to expect, but at the same time, it just feels harder. And I think we have to put a lot of that to the fact that we've all worked so hard in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And people are tired and emotionally drained. And then you throw in another one and you're just thinking, do I have enough to keep going? It's just to keep going. So with that, I want to ask you, the last 18 months have been extremely difficult, and events have really been hit. I mean, tourism's been hit, but so has events. And what do you feel that you've learnt from the last 18 months? Like, what's something that you feel that you've, gained from it? I know we've lost a lot, but what have you gained from it?
Well, you mean I think what we've learned, and with our team anyway, is flexibility. It is that nimbleness to have to be changing, and also resilience. We've had to make some really hard decisions, especially these last couple of months, and it's one of them in particular. It was soul destroying, actually, having to cancel that big show that was really an important show for our company. But I think it is that resilience, and I think the and the team. I think it's being surrounding yourself with good people and supportive people. I'm very, very lucky with the girls who work for me, and again, connecting with other groups. But I think that's very important to surround yourself with good people and the sort of people that we've got a saying that we've got at work: tough times don't last, but tough people do, and I think that's quite true. Because it's pretty easy to just, I think, go home and curl into a ball and think, can this all just please go away? But it's not, and you just have to keep going and put one foot. And I often think we seem to put go forward 3 steps and back 2, and it just seems, or sometimes back 4, and so that resilience is probably a big part of it in this game. And we have got no other option but to keep going. So you've just got to keep planning.
Yeah, and you're so right. And this is the thing about business owners, as such as yourself, Michele, is that when it has been your life and your passion, and you don't want anyone else to tell you how to do it or how to suck eggs, you do dust yourself off, don't you? You just dust yourself off and go, I've got to keep taking the steps forward. And whilst I keep taking the steps forward, my team will keep taking the steps forward with me. And that's a true testament to your leadership in your role in your business. The fact that you've got a great team that are growing with you. And I think that this is the thing that you're doing with these businesses. It's just you've grown them, and then all of a sudden you might be down now, but you won't be down for long.
We hope not, Tracy.
Yeah, no, you won't be. I know you won't. I do. What was really interesting, so when I had heard about the New Zealand Motorhome and Caravan Leisure Show, I didn't really know much about it, but you had this event at a time that motorhomes were selling like hotcakes. I have a connection down here in Marlborough with a motorhome provider, and they were waiting to be able to take their motorhomes up to Hamilton to go to the show, just so that they could display them, because it was such a big thing. And I think you even mentioned in passing once that these manufacturers wanted to show their new vehicles at your show, and just wanted this event to go ahead because it's just such it's a pinnacle event for these motorhome companies.
Mm. Yeah, so I know it is, and it's you don't. Especially these exhibitors come from nationwide, so you get to see everything, all the new products and the new in one place, and that's for such big things like motorhomes and caravans. It's quite unusual, really, to be able to to see them without having to travel far. And what we're finding is that our partner, the NZMCA, they hold an event park and stay. So we have over 1,500 or so motorhomes make a weekend of it. They come down, they stay, have a fantastic time, catch up with, friends and
wow.
So we actually take over the whole of Mystery Creek. And
wow.
Yeah, so it's a great venue for it too. And
15,000 motorhomes.
No, 1,500.
Okay, I got the numbers wrong, but still 1,500. That's not so big.
It's a lot.
But that's big. That is big.
It is.
If anyone that's watching this right now that doesn't like motorhomes, I'm really sorry that this woman is a mover and shaker, and she's obviously got the motorhomes coming your way. So I want to go back to Off the Beaten Track because the events have been pretty well cemented into people's calendars and they've been around for some time. But Off the Beaten Track is the new baby. It's the new toy that you've got in your collection. And we just mentioned before how quickly it had grown. But I guess I wanted to get an understanding from you. Where do you see this platform going? Like, what's the vision for Off the Beaten Track?
I guess the vision for us is to be the go-to place that people look for. Our catch cry is a unique rural Kiwi experience. So we want to be that first point of call that people who want to go experience the best part of rural New Zealand, that they'll click on Off the Beaten Track. And then we thought big picture would be taking Off the Beaten Track international, so to other countries who also had that opportunity to be getting off the beaten track in their countries. That's the big vision. But like any startup, it's had its I was going into an industry I knew nothing about. I had no idea how to open an online business, and that has also been interesting. When your website is we've had 2 website rebuilds, and the challenges that go with that. So there's still plenty to be done, and there's plenty we want to do. We want to we call it our tribe of Kiwi lovers, of New Zealand lovers, really. So we want to foster that tribe and make it really worthwhile to belong to Off the Beaten Track. And I guess we do want to engage more with landowners and find ways to let them know that that costs them nothing to list with us. So if they might just have somewhere that they could just park a motorhome or pitch a tent even. There's one example of a farm in Canterbury that I went to, and it's lovely. And they've got it's a big sheep station, and it's they've got room by the river to park a motorhome. Then they've converted the shearers' quarters to this gorgeous little 1-bedroom cottage. There's a B&B in the main homestead, and there's another cottage up the back of the farm that sleeps about 5 or 6. So they've really taken this and
wow.
is it a great example of using what they already had. And a lot of these landowners too are quite remote. Not all of them by any means, but this is a way that that they at least engage with other people. And we were also quite conscious about spreading that tourism dollar too. So at the time we opened or we created Off the Beaten Track, we thought your money went to Queenstown and Rotorua and Auckland, and this is when we had tourists. But this way, these rural regions and these small rural towns, they could reap some of the benefit of the money going, someone's got to buy their bread and milk from somewhere. And we thought this would be a way to spread that tourist dollar into these small towns and regions as well. So that's, again, another goal is to be making it more attractive for tourists to be actually not just doing the 3 stops or the 2 stops when they finally do come back.
I really love that idea because it creates a real authentic Kiwi experience because they're going excuse the pun, off the beaten track. But the dispersal of funds being not going into those hotspots, so actually being distributed into those regional areas where not only are they paying to stay with someone, but there's possibly going to be food purchased, petrol purchased, shopping done. So it has a bigger economic impact on some of those regions that you're sending them to, which is great. And I think RTOs must love you because you're helping disperse people out into those smaller regions, which they really do need right now. And we have such a beautiful country here.
Oh, we
Why
do.
wouldn't we?
Oh, I know. Why wouldn't we? And I quite often, well, when I used to go on a plane sometimes, I'd look down and think, gosh, there's a lot of off the beaten track properties down there, opportunities down there.
Yeah.
And, a lot of our landowners are even taking it the next step and, have the experiences to add on, So some of them will have, you can have bikes to hire or swimming or, farm tours, all sorts of things too. So some are quite entrepreneurial and they're thinking around what they have to offer as well, which is great.
That's awesome. What we will do at the end of this live, we'll also drop the web address for Off the Beaten Track, because I think it's quite interesting for anyone that wants to have a little sticky beak around. You're not an Airbnb, you're not a book a batch. You're about rural stays and authentic rural stays, which is quite, it's quite beautiful about the product is that they're one-offs. But I do have a question for you, because I do actually know that Karen, who popped on earlier, and she's probably still watching, and as others as well, working with trade. Where are you in that space for working with trade, or are you open for working with trade?
We're open for anything. We have a small margin, and so there, we don't charge a lot to our landowners and our holiday makers in terms of staying. So there hasn't been much to work with in the past. However, we have just opened up and looking at working with some of these select little regional operators as well. And we've just started to do that. But certainly there's lots of different ways, I think, and we've been exploring that, I suppose, more in this last month around how we can work together with other operators. And I think there's more than one way to skin a cat too, in terms of what we can offer and what they can offer too.
And I think if anyone hasn't had a chance to look at your website, there are some amazing properties on there. Now, I have one cheeky little question before we wrap up, Michele. You've obviously shown that you can handle the bright lights of being a business owner and selling. And for many people, and one goal of mine is also about being able to sell, create a business and sell. It's kind of a goal for me, and you've already done that, Tech. But what kind of advice would you give to other tourism and event businesses that are trying to navigate through these times?
Look, I think we're all in this, as I said before, it's like uncharted territory really, although it's getting a little bit more charted, isn't it, since last year. But probably my advice would be that you aren't, it does sometimes feel like you're battling this alone or with your own team. And it would probably be reiterating that, join a group. There's lots of, I don't know how many webinars that I've been on in this last year, but there's lots and lots of opportunities to either, learn more, develop, use the opportunity to develop probably your skills in your area, which again I did too. I took that opportunity from some of those initiatives there to upskill some of the staff if they wanted to, and I think just talking with others in your industry, because that problem shared rationale has actually never been truer than now.
Yeah, definitely.
And I suppose we've just got to. I think light is coming at the end of the tunnel. I think we probably have a bit of the roadmap the government are telling us around, and that we actually do have a roadmap of sorts to it. So I think we can see that things are going to be returning, but we just have to hang in there And
yeah,
and
we'll
it's, I know,
see.
yeah, we'll see. And we've got to hang in there, and we'll get there. We hope.
Yeah, no. Look, we have to. We just have to look forward. I'm a big believer of just looking forward and not getting caught up what was behind you, and so you can continue.
Agreed.
Continue.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Now, we've just got a couple of comments coming through. Karen just said, "Thanks, Tracy. Some great ideas germinating here." So Karen is a tour operator, and Karen, if you would love for us to connect you with Michele, she could help you with some of those ideas. So I think you two would be good connecting together. And then another one here from Affinity Cruises in my hometown of Marlborough. Sounds great. We'll be in touch with Off the Beaten Track. So there you go.
Awesome. That's great.
So, Michele, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed the chat today. You know, we only have such a short amount of time, and I had made some notes and I would have loved to have dug a little deeper, but you filled with lots of information and lots of goodies there. So I will invite you back at some stage, but thank you so much for taking your time out of your day, and good luck with helping with the new business. Will you be adding it to your repertoire or to someone else's repertoire? Will it be definitely your son's business, or will it be yours?
It's definitely his.
just checking. Just a quick shout out. Jess has just come on saying, lovely interview, Michele. Thank you, Jess. She did do well, didn't she? She was worried. She did do well. Now, for anyone that watches our show, look, please, if you do have any questions, please reach out, shout out, please like, share. If you do like what we do, we continue to do it because people actually like what we do, and we love hearing from people throughout the week. Again, Michele, thank you so much for today's interview. Really loved it. Really loved and enjoyed talking to you. I feel like there is a lot more that we could talk about, and we will have you back again. But until next time, to everyone that's watching, thank you. Stay safe, and we'll see you next Thursday, 1:30. Bye, everyone.